So, continuing with the 6 recollections, these are practices that were taught by the Buddha, and they're found in both the Pali and the Sanskrit traditions. So far, over the last couple of months, I've spoken about the first 4 of these 6 practices. So, they are a recollection of the Buddha, of the Dharma, of the Sangha, and there you contemplate the qualities of each of the 3 jewels of refuge. And this brings about a feeling of joy and inspiration in the mind. And then the 4th is recollection of ethics. And this involves contemplating one's practice of ethics, such as refraining from killing and stealing and so on, other non-virtuous actions, and also keeping precepts, any precepts that one has taken. And so the Buddha said that these 6 recollections, by contemplating these, that it brings peace and joy into the mind, and it also cleanses the mind of its defilements. So today I'll talk about the 5th one, which is recollection of giving or generosity. So this involves thinking about one's own actions of generosity and rejoicing in these. So here's some words from the Buddha in the Pali Canon, in which he is explaining this practice to a disciple named Mahanama. Furthermore, there is the case where you recollect your own generosity. In quotes, "It is a gain, a great gain for me that, among people overcome with a stain of possessiveness, I live at home, my awareness cleansed of the stain of possessiveness, freely generous, open-handed, delighting in being magnanimous, responsive to requests, delighting in the distribution of alms." At any time when a disciple of the noble ones is recollecting generosity, his mind is not overcome with passion, not overcome with aversion, not overcome with delusion. His mind heads straight based on generosity. And when the mind is headed straight, the disciple of the noble ones gains a sense of the goal, gains a sense of the Dharma, gains joy connected with the Dharma. In one who is joyful, rapture arises. In one who is rapturous, the body grows calm. One whose body is calmed senses pleasure. In sensing pleasure, the mind becomes concentrated. So doing these recollection practices also helps to increase concentration. And then the Buddha goes on to advise that this practice should be done while walking, standing, sitting, lying down, busy at work, and resting at home. So in all times. So that's in the Pali tradition. And in the Sanskrit tradition, the Buddha spoke about the practice of the 6 recollections in the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. And in a translation by Edward Kanza, the recollection of giving is actually called renunciation. Maybe my guess is because in practicing giving, we need to renounce our attachment to our things and be willing to give them to others. So the Buddha in the Perfection of Wisdom says, a bodhisattva should, through the non-existence of own being, so I think that refers to the emptiness of true existence, inherent existence, so bodhisattva has the awareness of that. So the bodhisattva should attend to renunciation of fleshly things or a renunciation of dharma. When he renounces things in such a way, he should not produce a thought like, I give or I do not give, I renounce or I do not renounce. Why? Because all this has no own being. When he thus courses in the recollection of renunciation and trains in it, he will gradually advance up to the knowledge of all modes. The knowledge of all modes is another term for awakening or Buddhahood. So by practicing giving, and also the practice of the recollection of giving within the awareness of emptiness. There's no inherently or truly existing giver, no truly existing recipient, no truly existent gift that is given. Then within that awareness, a bodhisattva is able to uh, practice and eventually reach enlightenment. So that's a quite high level of practice. So for us, I don't know about you, but for me, I need to start at a much more basic level. So how we can start practicing this recollection of giving. In the Mahayana teachings, it said there are three main types of giving. Giving material things, which includes giving food, money, medicine, clothing, material things. And giving dharma. So that can involve teaching the dharma if you're qualified to do that. But even if you're not, there's other ways you can share the dharma, like giving books, just talking to people about what you understand about dharma, even if it's in very simple terms. Also reciting mantras and sutras and imagining that all living beings are around you, listening and getting imprints on their minds. And also in live situations, like with animals and insects, reciting mantras and sutras to them. So those are practices of giving dharma that anybody can do. And then the third type of giving is giving protection, which involves saving lives. So we may not have too many opportunities to save human lives, but there are opportunities to save animal lives. Just yesterday, I noticed there was a little tray full of water sitting outside, and there were a couple of little insects inside, like struggling to get out. So I was glad they were still alive and I could fish them out and put them on the ground. There's lots of opportunities like that where we can save insects, or if they're in the road where they might be run over by a car or stepped on by somebody, then we can pick them up and put them to the side. So those are ways we can practice that type of giving. So in the recollection of giving, you think of times when you did acts of generosity in the past, and rejoice in those. Let your mind feel joyful and calm. And I think that this is a good way of encouraging ourselves to continue doing this practice. Oh, that was a good thing to do, and I want to do that again. Because we can feel good about it, then we want to do more. And so even the small acts of generosity that we do, for example, many people have pets. And, every day you feed your pets. And that's an act of generosity because they're dependent on you. They need you to feed them in order to survive. So that's one thing that many people do every day. And then sometimes we give little crumbs of bread to birds or other wildlife and so on. Or sharing extra food that we have with the food bank, making donations to organizations that provide food and other needs for people. And just this morning, I got an email about a documentary that's been made about this Jose Andres. I don't know if that's the right way of saying his name. He's the Spanish celebrity chef who started the World Central Kitchen. That was back in 2010 after the earthquake in Haiti. And so this amazing organization has already served more than 70 million meals to people in the wake of natural disasters like earthquakes and floods. And now they're on the ground in Ukraine, where so many people, their homes and their whole communities have been destroyed, and they're really desperately in need of food and water. And so there's a documentary made about this organization, and it's called We Feed People. And it's going to premiere tomorrow night, May the 27th, on the Disney Channel for those with access to that. So I'm sure that will be a very inspiring film to watch. And while I was preparing for this talk, I wondered why the Buddha recommended that we only think of our own acts of giving in this practice, recollecting our own acts of giving and not the acts of giving of others. I mean, for sure, it is a good thing to do, to think of other people's acts of giving and rejoice in those. I mean, that's a virtuous thing to do, just to rejoice in what other people are doing, and it's so uplifting as well. So I don't know why the Buddha taught it in this way, but maybe, just a guess, is that if we only rejoice in the acts of others, others' acts of generosity, then we might kind of sneakily think, that's good enough, and I don't have to do it myself. I don't have to practice giving myself. I'll just rejoice in what other people are doing. So just in case somebody might fall into that trap, then it's important to focus on our own acts of giving and realize, well, we have done this before and we can, do it again. So to give ourselves encouragement to continue doing these kind of acts of generosity. And even if we're not wealthy, you don't have to be wealthy to practice giving. Even if you're dirt poor and you can't, afford to give any of your money to others, but there are other ways of practicing generosity, such as the giving of dharma, which you can do just by reciting mantras and prayers, and imagining that you're reciting these for others. They're hearing you. And also there's a fourth type of giving that's explained in Vajrayana Buddhism. It's the giving of love. And that's free. You don't have to have money to give that. So that involves, cultivating loving kindness for others and then doing as much as we can to express that in our daily life. Even just when we meet people, just being friendly and smiling and attentive to any needs that they may have and ready to help them. Yeah, so just showing friendliness and kindness and love to others is a kind of practice of giving. And also you can give mentally, like in the practice of Tonglen, taking and giving. There you imagine, you visualize everything that you have and transform it into beautiful things, enjoyable things, pleasurable things, and imagine giving those to others. Now, so even if you're not wealthy, there's many opportunities to practice giving. So, so let's be inspired by the Buddha's teachings on giving, both the practice of giving itself, which is the first of the 6 perfections on the Bodhisattva path, and also this practice of recollecting giving. So remembering our acts of generosity and rejoicing in those, letting our minds become calm and peaceful and joyful, and then feeling the inspiration, the enthusiasm to continue doing these practices again in the future. And by ourselves practicing giving, we inspire others as well. It's said that, one act of kindness or one act of generosity can inspire so many other people to do the same. Thank you.